Another Fine Mess. Another Fine Mess by Tony Bolling. Read by Janis for ABC to read. Fox is in a terrible panic. Uncle Ferdinand is coming to stay and Fox must tidy his house. But what will he do with the rubbish? Put it down a hole? That's a good solution. But what happens if that hole is another animal's home? There was a knock at Fox's door. "Post!" called a squeaky voice. Fox had been out all night and his eyes were still half closed. He opened the door and a letter was thrust under his nose. "Thanks," he said sleepily and trudged back to bed. Fox switched on the lamp and snuggled down under the duvet to read the letter. "Dear nephew," it said, "I will pay you a visit at the next full moon. Sincerely, Uncle Ferdinand." Fox looked blearily at his calendar. He saw to his horror that the next full moon was tonight. "Oh no!" he wailed. "The den is a mess." Fox took out his broom and swept all round the house until he had a pile of rubbish at the front door. Where shall I put it now? He wondered. As Fox swept the rubbish along the path that ran round the hill, he noticed a hole in the ground. "Ooh, this will do just fine," he said, brushing the rubbish down the hole. He went back to his den to wait for Uncle Ferdinand. Badger woke suddenly. Her set was filled with the most terrible crash, as if the roof had fallen in. She jumped out of bed, and there, in the middle of the living room, was a pile of rubbish. Badger was furious. "How did that mess get here?" Badger fetched a broom and swept the rubbish out of her home, through the wood, and into a deep hole. "In you go," she said, as the rubbish tumbled out of sight. The rabbit family were just about to have their salad lunch when the rubbish fell splat right onto the middle of the kitchen table. They were horrified. "Oh, yuck! What a mess!" shouted the children. "My lovely lettuce!" cried Mummy Rabbit. "Grab a brush, everyone!" cried Daddy Rabbit. Together, the family brushed the rubbish off the table, out of their burrow and round the hill. They found a thick clump of grass in which to hide it, and then they all went home to make another meal. Partridge finished pecking around in the wood and returned to the new nest that she had built before lunch. Partridge was terribly upset to find that someone had dumped all their rubbish in her nest. "How could they?" she screeched. "Some people are just so messy." Partridge gathered up some twigs to sweep the rubbish away from her nest. Finding a hole close by, she brushed the rubbish down the hole. This done, she went back to her nest to lay some eggs. Mole was dashing through his house when the pile of rubbish fell thump right on the top of his head. "Oh, goodness me, whatever's that?" he said, removing a box from his snout. A few sniffs told him it was a useless pile of rubbish. "Can't have this mess in here," he said, pushing it along the tunnel under the hill. When Mole reached his front door, he shoved the rubbish outside. Then he went indoors to wash his paws. Meanwhile, all the rubbish rolled down the hill and landed with a clatter, bang, crash, right at the feet of Uncle Ferdinand, who was on his way to see Fox. "Look at that," he said to himself, and gathered up the rubbish. When he reached Fox's den, he left it outside. "Look at this rubbish I found on the road," said an irritated Uncle Ferdinand to Fox when he answered the door. "Oh no!" wailed Fox, horrified to see it was his old rubbish. He was about to suggest putting it back down the hole he'd found earlier when the Mouse family passed by. "Look!" exclaimed Mrs. Mouse. "Fancy anyone throwing away such wonderful treasures?" "Help yourself," said Fox with a sigh of relief, as he led Uncle Ferdinand into his home. "I wish all my nephews were as clean and tidy as you," said Uncle Ferdinand, looking around the den. "I do my best," said Fox, with a sly grin.